This is Boadu TV. Truth and integrity.
Akwaba Boadu TV sini na manfo bisa se Paul Adom Otchere adan wagya adwuma na Metro TV for pamono na se ba omiadu ntwo no ono a na gya adwuma lokrani na defeat na no den into the no kotaye finally waba NPP ne NDC flag esini still do no wasesa na ye ne Ghana flag wasese the Ghana ni edim kunim yo na watachi on some of trending news are so trendy or memo odim say yes petition be na manten so say the petition na do dan kwaku fa do Ghana man panyen say chief justice tokonu yenyino ade so emun 70 na afin so no why na wogidi say obey speaker of parliament obey do ajaho former speaker of parliament and I say bekoswa aye abambagben a wote dwaso munsem no bebre oh yes abambagben so ya de do aja ho so ye hu do be ye NDC apenso so amafo ewe no all right this no Paul Adom Otchere aboewremu na mepese nyina ya yetalanku na yekutie no.
President Mahama has been elected president of Ghana for the next 4 years, ending in sometime in 2028, December thereafter. And according to the Constitution, as the executive president of Ghana, he has the mandate to select the executive government. The first line of executive government will be ministers, deputy ministers, and important heads of some of the important state institutions like the central bank, the BOG, as we call it, and then also other state institutions like the police and also the military, the economic and organized crime, the national security. All of those places are appointments that connect to the executive authority of government. And President John Dramani Mahama will now have the responsibility to make these appointments. Some of them will be nominations that will go to Parliament. Let's begin now to look into the president's mind. Guess what is in there? Let's start with some of the appointments. Who gets what, or who is getting what? I like the way they put it. Okay, the speakership of Parliament is very, very, very important, isn't it? It's very, very, very important. And you're going to have a speakership of Parliament that is looking very interesting. I like to begin with the ladies first, they say. Dr. Valerie Sawyer is a lawyer, well-known, and also the daughter of Harry Sawyer, one of the important thinking founders of the NDC. Now, Valerie Sawyer was Deputy Chief of Staff under Professor J.A. Mills's administration from 2009 to 2013, and also repeated her position as Deputy Chief of Staff under President John Dramani Mahama's administration. You remember, under President Mahama's first administration, the Chief of Staff, the Honorable Prosper Bani, was changed at some point, was sent to the Ministry of Interior to be the minister, and Julius Debra was brought in as the Chief of Staff in the second half of President Mahama's first administration. Valerie Sawyer, in both circumstances, remained a Deputy Chief of Staff, isn't it? So she has Deputy Chief of Staff 2 terms. Now, the rumor is that Valerie Sawyer has completely dedicated the rest of her politics since 2012 to the philosophy of President John Dramani Mahama. So she is an important Mahama apologist in the circumstance, you know. She swears by Mahama's theory, she swears by Mahama's political philosophy. She has also been an important person running Mahama's office for the last 8 years. And this she's done diligently. And everybody who has tasted her work tells us that she's done it with the verve that you would expect from people who are complete loyalists to the leader. Now, it's because of all of these things that she's done. Her interest in the speakership has become of very high value to her supporters, to the inner circle of President Mahama, and to all the people around that, oh, yes, Valerie, yes. I mean, with what Valerie has done over the last 8 years, I mean, you can't say no to Valerie if she wants to be speaker. Qualification-wise, she is completely qualified. Understanding government, she was Deputy Chief of Staff, she understands it. In terms of brain power, She's a lawyer of many, many years. So, yes, Valerie Sawyer. Good one. But that's not the end of the story. Alban Sumano Kingsford Bagbin is here. Now, one of the important actors for the NDC in the last 4 years has been Mr. Bagbin. In his role as a Speaker of Parliament, in presenting his watchdog role, he has stood firm with the philosophy of the NDC. At each and every stage, he has demonstrated his stand within the context of NDC parliamentary politics. He's been an NDC member of Parliament for a long time, and this his particular speakership, which came with a lot of controversy, you can call it whatever, has brought him in as one of the important cadres bearing the flag of the NDC. Now, obviously, Alban Sumano Kingsford Bagbin would like to continue as Speaker. In the circumstance, can you look at Mr. Bagbin and say no to him? I don't know. The other twist in the tail for the Bagbin and Valerie Sawyer contest is that the chairman of the NDC, my own uncle, Johnson Asiedun Katia, sworn thunder and brimstone that nothing should change and that Bagbin should be retained as the Speaker of this NDC-dominated parliament with 2/3 majority, because if today the NDC has 2/3 majority in parliament, no one can discount the role of Speaker Bagbin. This is Johnson Asiedun Katia's firm position, completely opposite Valerie Sawyer. So as the quarrel was ongoing in the background between Valerie Sawyer supporters and Bagbin supporters and everybody trying to pound the president-elect, enter two other contestants. Okay, the people who support Valerie Sawyer, they also have at the back of their mind a first deputy speakership for Idrisu Haruna, the member of parliament for Tamale South, very distinguished member of parliament. And they also the very distinguished minority leader, as he was known before. Now they are thinking that a ticket of Valerie Sawyer as a speaker, Idrisu Haruna as first deputy speaker, will be able to knock off the challenge from Speaker Bagbin. Very interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. So whilst that was going on, supporters of Idrisu Haruna felt that, but why first deputy speaker? Why? I've been a member of parliament for 4 terms. I've been minister. Why should I be first deputy speaker? So enter Idrisu Haruna's interest in the position of the speakership. Now see this. This morning, yesterday, Alexander Fenyo-Markin, the minority leader, addressing the parliament in their makeshift place at the International Conference Center, said to the speaker, Alban Bagbin, that he is hoping that he will be retained, but he may not be retained. And that Fenyo-Markin was expressing his, whatever, if you like, his sadness about the fact that Bagbin may not be retained. He actually proceeded to tease him by saying that, you see, with all the work you've done for them, Mr. Speaker, they want to sack you, etc., etc. Now, Fenyo-Markin also said on the floor of the House that if for whatever reason the NDC and his leadership don't want Bagbin in Parliament, they should tell them, the NDC and his leadership, they should tell them that they must have a speaker from within. Who was he talking about when he says from within? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I submit that Alexander Fenyo-Markin had only one person in mind. It was Idrisu Haruna. That's what is happening. So everyone is looking at this contest. Alban Bagbin, Valerie Sawyer, Idrisu Haruna, and the people are saying that, why are you fighting over speaker? President Mahama did 1 term. He's gone. He's coming to do a 2nd term. Okay. When he did his 1st term, his speaker was Do Ajao, who is a very experienced member of parliament. Do Ajao also was thought to be a successful speaker. Okay. So this is a simple calculation. President Mahama has returned to the presidency by a whooping, big, wide, huge, significant margin. The Honorable Do Ajao has been a bulwark support for the NDC, resolving most of the conflicts that have gotten the NDC's unity that propelled them to power. So you cannot discount Do Ajao's role as the behind-the-scenes elder person of the party in actually working on the Volta region conflicts, which have helped the NDC today. You cannot discount Boadu Otchere in that work. In the circumstances, President Mahama has returned. Boadu Otchere returns, Speaker of the Parliament. Great argument. What's going to happen? Let's keep our eye on this space. Let's keep our eye on this space and see what's going to happen. But this afternoon, Mohamed Amin Anta, the outgoing finance minister, said boldly and confidently that the NPP was leaving the Ghanaian financial state in a good situation. 2-3 days ago, it was published that the economy is growing at 7 point something post-COVID, and that's significant. That's phenomenal. Well, as we always say, we don't feel it in our pocket, but the statistics are showing something. Hopefully, we'll feel it in our pocket soon. So, whoever comes into the finance ministry is critical in terms of the success of President Mahama's 4-year term. Now, that person would have to inherit an IMF program. The IMF program is on until December 2026. In that year, Ghana would have to make an argument that we're getting out of the IMF. But a very smart finance minister can have ways in which he can renegotiate the IMF program and exit earlier. It happened in 2017 with Ken Ofori-Atta, who exited the IMF program earlier than was anticipated when the NDC government inherited an IMF program from the NDC. Now, the president is going to make a choice. Who is he going to make the choice for? What appears to be very obvious is Kaisel Ato-Forson. Why is that obvious? Kaisel Ato-Forson is coming from a background as a minister of state, also a deputy minister of finance or a minister of state. I think he's a minister of state at the Ministry of Finance. That's Ato-Forson. That's where he's coming from. He has a PhD in that from KNUST. He has been in the 2017, 18, 19. He was the ranking member for the Finance Committee. He was the leading NDC person on the Finance Committee, isn't it? So Ato-Forson, he's been talking about finance and economy a lot. During the e-levy processes, he championed the agenda against the e-levy. Most of the taxes that government have introduced in the parliament, he's championed the narrative against it. So he, Ato-Forson, has had a lot of information about the recent past financial dealings at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning and the Bank of Ghana. So he comes across as the easiest and obvious choice, isn't it? He then became majority leader going into the election. And one of the reasons that was given for him to be majority leader, according to Johnson Asiedu Nketia, the chairman of the party, was that Ato-Forson understands finance. And the problem that Ghanaians are confronting now is the problem of finance. Okay, so Forson appears to be the obvious, easy choice. But hold on. The choice of Ministry of Finance, and I have a personal experience with this, is a choice of the president's personal relationship with somebody who understands finance, who can look after the finance for the president. Now, I learned this very early. I learned this lesson very early in my journalism and news reporting career in 2001. I was having a conversation in those days with a very senior NPP person. I'm not going to mention his name. I'm sure when I start the story, he will know. And I was telling him after the event of during the frenzy of the Kufuor victory of the second round of election 2000, I was asking him, those of us who were young at that time, 20-something, we were very excited by people who came from abroad and were speaking slangs, Kofi Wayo, Kofi Kunudu Apreku, and were talking the politics against Rawlings and all that. We were very excited about those things. So Kofi Kunudu Apreku excited all of us with his pungent analysis, sharp shooting, his sound bites. When you're a journalist in those days, Apreku will always give you a sound bite. He gave me an important sound bite in the 2000 election. It made me very famous in the Joy newsroom. When I put the microphone to him, he told me, and I was asking him about the budget. The budget had just been presented by Kwame Pepra sometime in March of 2000, the election year. And I asked Apreku that, he was a spokesperson on finance. I asked him that, what do you think about the budget? And he said, it's a lame duck budget from a lame duck government. I think if you Google it, it will come. And then quickly I published it, and it became a big thing for him. Next time he saw me, he patted me on my shoulder and said, that was a good story, isn't it? So Kofi Kunudu Apreku was there. Then I asked this important person that, will Kofi Kunudu Apreku become finance minister? We spoke in Twi. He looked at me and said, Paul Adom Otchere, what chess are you calling? What did he say? I looked at him confused. Nobody had asked me before. I must have been 26 or something. I told him my age. He laughed. I said, what chess are you calling? Now, J. Kufuor a winning presidency. Apreku a finance minister. And I was confused about what he was saying. I said, but why? Why not? He's a spokesperson. He said, no. Finance minister is not choosing like that. Finance minister is chosen by the president for somebody that he is his person, proper person. That's how they choose finance minister. Tony Blair, Gordon Brown. You look at it, Kwame Nkrumah, Komla Gbedema, Buzia, J.H. Mensah. You look at it, Achampon, Don Kofojo. So people choose people to be finance minister who are their person. Perhaps you can say about Rawlings, who really didn't quite do that. He just had Kwesi Botwe there. Kwesi Botwe was not his person. He didn't quite know him, but he allowed him to roll because other people were supervising Kwesi Botwe, etc., etc. But so from that day, I understood it. Then when Osafo Mafu became finance minister, in my news reporting, I observed the discomforts from the center relating to Osafo Mafu. When Boadu became, I observed the tenacity and how Boadu was held onto by the center and the center held onto him. You could tell that this was a real romantic relationship between a president and his finance minister. We have not forgotten Akufo-Addo and Ken Ofori-Atta. So given that context, who here is the one that you will pick as John Dramani Mahame's person? Atto-Forson, yes, to some extent. Andani here. Andani is the MD of Stanbic. We all know him very well. He's contributed a lot to the Ghanaian financial industry and institutions. Andani is great. Andani here, yes. But if you take up these three people, the person that is John Mahame's person is Nashiru. So what's going to happen? I don't know. But this is the choice that confronts the president right now. Is he going to go? If he doesn't go for Kaysel Atto-Forson, he would have let a lot of people down. There are a lot of interest standing behind Atto-Forson. And these interests are typically interests that have manifestly supported the NDC in opposition. Some are businessmen, some are parliamentarians, some are party executives, some are regional executives. For all of these people, Atto-Forson is their man. When you move the political analysis to the northern region, to Tamale, Nashiru will be the man. Now let me tell you something, and I know this. Most of the NDC events that was held in the northern region, northeast and all of that, Tamale and all of that, and the crowds appear, even some DM didn't attend. Most of it was organized by Nashiru. He paid for it, he organized it, he did the security, he did everything. Nashiru did most of the things that happened in Tamale for the NDC. And the results from the north is phenomenal. So you can credit that to Nashiru. You might not be able to credit a result from any part of the region to Atto-Forson, but you know that Atto-Forson held the parliaments together for the NDC strongly. Even with times when he was struggling, he was still pushing. Andani is a great brain, and it's a stabilizing factor. If you put Andani as Minister of Finance, people are going to be calm about it. People are going to think that, oh, we have a finance minister that we can talk to. I guess the same goes for most of them, but more for Andani. Andani is a choice that corporate Ghana will applaud. Corporate Ghana will relax. Everyone is looking at the new president to see what decision he will make and to see what is animating his decisions. Now, if you put Andani there, you satisfy majority of the people, isn't it? So, what is the verdict? My gut feeling is that President Mahama is going to have a hard thinking between Nashiru and Atto-Forson, and he's going to choose one of them. That's my gut feeling. I may be wrong, but on Thursday, I'll come back to you with more information. He's calling me. The guy that I told you, Ofa, I don't want to mention your name. I won't mention your name. Don't call me. Don't worry. I won't mention your name. The guy that I told you about the Kufuor story is calling me. Ofa, by now he's over 70, pushing 80, I think. Ofa, the year why. And I finish, I'll call you. All right. So I'm thinking that the choice is between Nashiru and Kaysel Atto-Forson. By Thursday, when we come back on Good Evening Ghana, I may be able to narrow it down to somebody. And Danny might be going elsewhere, and as we get in, you will see it. Let's move on. Next, this is the big one. Attorney General, Minister of Justice, Godfrey Dame's position. Everybody wants Godfrey Dame's position. Everyone wants Godfrey Dame's position. Look at the list, and it may be longer. So let's start. Let's begin with Marietta Brew. Now, Marietta Brew is the former Attorney General, yeah? Cheers. And she handed over to Gloria Kufu, who was Godfrey Dame's first boss as he was Deputy Attorney General. Now, Marietta Brew's name was placed on the transition. You remember the transition, the transition, what is still going on, the NDC transition. And Marietta Brew's name came up as the responsible for justice and Ministry of Attorney General and all of that. Within a few hours, Marietta Brew's name was taken off the list and was replaced by Mahama Ayariga, another lawyer. So, as of now, President-elect John Dramani Mahama in his office take their legal advice relating to what's happening at the transition from Mahama Ayariga. Okay. So, does that suggest anything? That Mahama Ayariga may be Attorney General? I don't know. But this is what has happened at the transition. Maretta was there, her name taken off, and Ayariga brought in. All right. Who are the other contestants for the slot? Dominic Ayini, who many people think is entitled. He must have it. Why? Because Dominic Ayini was Deputy Attorney General. Dominic Ayini was a lecturer in the university. He taught me, it was intellectual property, I think. He taught me at Legon in law. So he was a young lecturer in the university, loved by many students. We all liked him. We liked him because he had a flamboyant Volvo car. And he would allow us to stand around his car and look into the car and look at the engine and look at the seats. And as young students, we were always fascinated by a beautiful car, etc., etc. And Dominic Ayini had a beautiful story about the car. He bought it when he was doing his PhD in America, and he shipped it to Ghana when he came back. Green, beautiful Volvo. We all liked it. And you always know when Dominic is there. When you're a student and you have any trouble, you go to Dominic. Everyone will tell you. You don't have to worry about anything. They'll tell you, go to Dr. Dominic. You get to his office, you tell him, boss, I'm in trouble. Those of us who are, those of us who have those problems. The IA was done and I wasn't there and I was in Parliament, and when I came back, they had done the IA. He'll look at you and laugh and say, don't worry, I'll manage it for you. And Dominic will help you. He'll always help you. So he was a great person that every student liked. And we didn't know that he was political. We didn't know that Dominic was political at all. Raymond Atugu taught us in the same season, and you will see a bit of Raymond's left-wing politics coming out when he's teaching. Dominic actually came across as a right-wing thinker. I have to say that. Dominic Ayini, when he was teaching us, came across as a right-wing thinker. But eventually, he joined politics and joined the NDC. Many of the students Dominic had taught, and many of his colleagues at the university, thought that Dominic's joining the NDC was a very positive and useful addition, because they felt that the NDC didn't have the type of Dominic Ayini in their mix. And so Dominic coming in was very, very useful. Okay. So Dominic came in and became Deputy Attorney General, served President Mahama. He's a member of Parliament, by the way. Remember that in these appointments that President Mahama is making, being a member of Parliament is a big plus. Big, big plus. We'll talk about that on Thursday. So that's Dominic Ayini, yeah? Now, Dominic Ayini was Deputy Attorney General. If that fracas, the infamous fracas that happened in Parliament on 7 January 2021, the one that brought Speaker Bagwin to power, if that fracas had not happened and Professor Michael Quay had been elected as was expected to be the Speaker of Parliament, Dominic Ayini, his name had been proposed for First Deputy Speaker. That is the level of respect that the NDC MPs have for him. They felt in 2021 that Dominic Ayini should be the Speaker of First Deputy Speaker of Parliament. So the circumstances are clear now. Dominic Ayini doesn't even feel he has to ask for it. The people who support Dominic Ayini expect President Mahama to know that your Attorney General is Dominic Ayini. There's no ifs and buts, no pussyfooting about it. That's what they expect. So that's what is happening now. Okay, assuming that the NDC was looking to get an Attorney General who was going to drive hard at it and, as we say in the parlance, deal with it. Drive hard at it and deal with it. They might be looking, and in terms of those who have been doing the NDC cases, those who have been going to court for the NDC cases, Opuni people, Richard Jakpa lawyers, and all of those NDC lawyers who have been fighting the political battle in court, they have been led by Thaddeus Sori. So, for that group of people who have been quite instrumental in keeping the NDC's image afloat and in making sure that the judicial system is not used to bully the NDC, for those people who lay down their legal career to fight the cause of John Dramani Mahama, they all think that now that John Dramani Mahama is elected with such a large majority, it is time to remember Thaddeus Sori. So, they are thinking, Mr. President, Thaddeus Sori is not a member of Parliament, he's not even a regular politician, but if you want somebody who can deal with it, you have to come to Thaddeus. Interesting, isn't it? All right. Then other people are talking. You don't want to give it to Mahama Ayariga, who is a member of Parliament. You don't want to give it to Dominic Ayini, who is a member of Parliament. Mr. President, you cannot take the Attorney General from outside Parliament. So if you don't want any of these people, we present to you Idrisu Haruna, if he doesn't become Speaker. So that's the list for the Attorney Generals for Godfrey Dame's position. My producer tells me that I can't go on with the rest because I have to go to other topics. We'll come to Governor. Oh, Togbe Afede is here, my good friend. Togbe Afede is here for Governor. We'll come to that on Thursday. Foreign affairs, all of them are here. We'll come to that on Thursday. Betty Mo, Education, fantastic. Professor Clement Park. Everybody wants a Duchum's job. We'll come to that on Thursday. Chief of Staff will be Julius Deborah. That I can say now. And end the appointments here. I have to begin to say congratulations to Julius Deborah. It looks like that's settled. That one is settled. He will be Chief of Staff. Okay. So let me just do this before I get to the other matters. What are the matters? CJ, the Lord Chief Justice, has seen a petition against her presented by Professor Kweku Azar, which has gone to the president. What are the circumstances and how will this play out? We'll get to the details of that. And then also, NDC have a 2/3 majority in Parliament. What does that do for the entrenched clauses in the Constitution? Tonight, we'll limit ourselves to the entrenched clause about presidential term limits, because everyone, including the BBC and Reuters, are discussing this matter. Can the Parliament of that overwhelming 2/3 be able to amend the Constitution to allow John Dramani Mahama do another consecutive term, even though he has done one term already? We are coming back to that story in 2.5 minutes. Let's see this first. So this was a post that was put out by Bendoche Malong, one of our seniors. Ben Malong also has a critical interest in President Mahamad's presidency. You know that he was director of communication during the time. The rumor was that he had been undermined by Standobe and others, and they threw him away, as they say it. But Ben Malong remained a loyalist of President John Dramani Mahama. He went back to take up his job in the UN. And from there, he's been writing quite a bit critical of the Akufo-Addo administration. But here is what he wrote, and he has been taken on by PK Sapong, whispers from the thinking corridor, something. I'll get it. So Ben Malong said, the rot is so deep, the damage is so huge, and yet expectations are so high that there is bound to be some disappointment. Bendoche Malong calls something rot. The rot is so deep. Then he calls something damage. He says that's also so huge. And then he says, in spite of the rot so deep and the damage so huge, the expectations are so high. And so people are bound to be disappointed. This is what PK Sapong wrote in response. I like the article, so I share it with you now. He says, that is Mohammed Chambers' photograph. Please, this is not PK Sapong. I'm sorry, viewers. This is Mohammed Ibn Chambers. It's not PK Sapong, I beg you. My producers, they are young boys, so sometimes forgive them when they put the... This is clearly Mohammed Ibn Chambers. I was on the flight with him recently when I was going to London, and we had a quick, small little chat. All right, so this is not PK Sapong. This is Mohammed Ibn Chambers. All right. Dear Uncle Bendoche Malong, respectfully, you cannot be singing lamentations and dirges when the good people of Ghana have given you a decisive victory in the election. You are not to itemize the challenges that your administration will face to us now, when you have been in the know of this all the while. Assuming without admitting that the rot is so deep and that the damage is unimaginably huge, that is the more reason why you went to the people, harmed to them about the deepened rot and the huge damage caused by the economy, caused to the economy, and made a promise to them that upon voting for you, you will fix the situation. You offered them hope. You gave them the assurance that should they retire the NPP, the Mahama administration will bring the Ghana we all want to see and experience. You injected higher expectations into the minds and hearts of the people. You told them you had what it takes to paddle the decrepit canoe to safety, and that's the more reason they have voted for you. You cannot, therefore, fault Ghanaians to nurse higher expectations. Sir, PK Sapong says, you made a promise to them. You promised to build bridges at places where there are no rivers, literally. You promised them honey and milk. You promised to alleviate their sufferings with game-changing policies and programs. The people have voted for you because the 24-hour economy promise. They expect you to abolish e-levy, betting, COVID-19, and emissions taxes. They voted for you to stop galamsey and all forms of illegal mining activities. They expect import duties to be reduced drastically. They want prices of goods to come down considerably. They expect you people to improve free SHS and to include private schools in its implementation. Ghanaians expect their lives to be better under Mahama presidency. Sir, you made them believe in you. the reason you won overwhelmingly, you cannot disappoint them, please. You cannot disappoint us, sir. P.K. Sapon whispers from the corridors of the thinking place. I've seen this before. In 2017, I saw this. In 2009, I saw this. In 2001, when they were doing proceed on leave, I saw this. I've seen it. I don't know what's going to happen, but this is very familiar. In terms of people saying, you have been voted for, just go and do the job and stop complaining. You have been voted for, just did and then stop this. One time, Nana Akufo-Addo had occasion to call Professor Mills when he was president, Professor Doolittle, because Akufo-Addo had arrived from a trip in England and he was asked, how do you see the government after losing the election, Professor Mills, 6 months? He said he's complaining about what? He's been elected. I call him Professor Doolittle. So we've seen that before. P.K. Sapon, thank you very much for reminding Uncle Ben Doche Malone that, hey, Ben Malone, welcome to the job. Now, Ben Malone may have forgotten, but I did a very interesting journey with him in 2001 here in Ghana. We had met in London. You know, in 2001, I had been at the BBC doing the election, and Ben Malone was about that time exiting, something like that. So I'll go to his house in London after work, and you ask me, what is Jenny Horrocks saying? What is Robin Wise? What role are they giving me, etc., etc. So when I came to Ghana, he happened to visit Ghana. We had a common friend called Mawe Nyega, and he was with Mawe Nyega. So I went to see him, and he asked me to take him to the State House. At the time, Kufuor had started his presidency from there. And Ben wanted to pay a courtesy call on Elizabeth Ohene. So Ben and I went to State House to see Elizabeth Ohene. This is very beginning of Kufuor's administration, 6 months, 5 months. Elizabeth Ohene was operating from there as the director of communication, and they went in, we sat down. Elizabeth was too busy to see us. Ken Ofori-Atta was having meetings with Reko Brobe because we were looking at Sahara oil, something, and Ben and I had a conversation, sitting down, waiting to see Elizabeth. We never really got to see her. She came to say hello, and we had to leave because she was very busy. But the conversation Ben Malone had with me has stayed with me since then. I will not talk about it now. Those of you who know him, ask him. He knows the conversation we had. We walked from the State House back to my car. He sat in my car. I drove him to Mawe Nyega, and we talked throughout the time. We were talking about what happens when governments change. That's the conversation we had. But it's not for public consumption. Tell Ben Doche Malone I said hello to him on television. I greet him well. Okay. Now, let's get to the big story. The Lord Chief Justice has something to deal with. A petition has come from Kweku Azar to the president for the removal of Justice Tokonu. Yeah, thank you, producer, for this. So this is Kweku Azar. I used to call him Kweku Azar, but we are friends now, aren't we? I've now become a member of GoGo. You know, he has a political party called GoGo. I'm now a member of GoGo. So this is Kweku Azar. I call him Kweku Azar sometimes. This is the Learned Chief Justice. He has sent a petition to the president to remove Justice Tokonu as the Chief Justice. This is a petition. We're going to deal with it extensively tonight. It's 28 minutes past 10 o'clock. Don't worry. We'll deal with it extensively tonight. Just give me 5 minutes to tell you what the majority in Parliament means when it comes to presidential term limits. Just give me 5 minutes to do that. Then I'll come and deal with this in extenso. We've taken the first break already? Yes, we have. So we're good. All right. Now let's get to Parliament. So I'll come back to the Georgiana Wood story. So, producer, do you have any background for me for Parliament? Yes, excellent. Can presidential term limits be amended solely by Parliament? Okay. So everybody is talking about NDC having won a huge, admirable majority of 2/3 as it appears. Maybe 2/3 minus 1 or 2/3 plus 1 or 2. I don't know how it's going to end because there are some disputed seats that are still being talked about. Ablekuma's fire was set up in some place, burning everything that is connected to election, and in the process destroying a school building. I don't know who did it, whether it's NPP or it's NDC, but the police will find out what they did. Okay, so presidential term limits can it be amended solely by Parliament? So when we heard that NDC have 2/3 majority in Parliament, the story was told that with this 2/3 majority, the NDC Parliament can actually amend aspects of the Constitution. I think that is fundamentally true. And they can amend the Constitution such that John Dramani Mahama, instead of serving one term, which is generally a difficult conversation, in terms of serving one term, he can now serve 2 terms, which will be more comfortable for businesses, for the international community, for those who want to deal with the president. A president coming in first time to be able to have the potential to do 2 terms is more admirable. He has longevity. You can deal with him. You can start a 6-year project and hope that he wins, and then etc., etc. So everyone is interested in this conversation. But as Mr. Mahama himself has said, this is a legacy term. So he's going to do his legacy and leave it, whatever it is, whatever that means. But let's look at what the law provides. What does the law say when you have a 2/3 majority? So can a 2/3 majority extend the president's term limit? Let's look at it. Let's begin our foray from Article 66 of the Constitution. It says, a person elected as president shall, subject to clause 3 of this article, hold office for a term of 4 years, beginning from the date on which he is sworn in as president. A person shall not be elected to hold office as president of Ghana for more than 2 terms. That's all. That's what it says. For more than 2 terms. So, the interpretation is, what does the 2 terms mean? Can you do 1 term in 1981? Come back and do another term, another 2 terms? Can you do, if you do 2 terms, we understand that 2 straight terms you are gone. But if it's 1 term, when you are coming for the second term, has the first term wiped out within the context of Article 66? The answer that many people have is no. But does Parliament have the power to extend the term to allow any president to change this, for any presidents to come in to amend this provision? Now, this is a provision in Article, this is a provision, the one I read as a provision, Article 66. Now, 66 is part of the executive. The executive is Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is an entrenched clause. How do we know that? It's in Article 290. Article 290 says this article applies to the amendment of the following provisions of this Constitution, which are in this Constitution referred to as the entrenched provisions. So Article 290 shows how you can change entrenched provisions. The presidential term limit outlined in Article 66 is one of the term limits. Okay? All right. So that is all in Chapter 8. So the executive, all of it in Chapter 8 is part of the entrenched provisions. How are entrenched provisions dealt with? Let's move on. Okay. So entrenched provisions include the presidential term, human rights, Chapter 5 for all human rights provisions are entrenched. Article 11 is entrenched, which is the laws of Ghana. Article 1, 2, 3 is entrenched. Sovereignty lies in the people of Ghana. All of those things in Article 1, 2, 3. A Supreme Court has the original jurisdiction, interpretation of the Constitution, Article 2. All of those provisions are entrenched, including the presidential one. So for all of those provisions entrenched, Article 290 has provided ways in which you can change them. Let's look at it to see the role that the 2/3 majority in Parliament could have. Let's start. 290. A bill for the amendment of an entrenched provision shall, before Parliament proceeds to consider it, be referred by the Speaker to the Council of State for its advice, and the Council of State shall render advice on the bill within 30 days after it has received it. So a bill for the amendment of the presidential term limits in Article 66. So a bill will be formulated, most likely by the Attorney General. Or in these circumstances, because Michael Quay has passed a private member's bill, you can have a private member's bill do that. Now, that bill will be given to the Speaker. The Speaker will send it to the Council of State. The Council of State will have within 30 days of receiving it to respond to the bill, assuming that the Council of State sees the bill and comes back to the Speaker that is okay, let it go. This is the next stage. 3. The bill shall be published in the Gazette, but shall not be introduced into Parliament until the expiry of 6 months after publication in the Gazette under this clause. So a lot of time lines are in there. So after the Council of State have seen it and they are happy with it, from the Speaker, it goes to the Gazette for 6 months. A bill to change the presidential term limit. That's what we are looking at. Okay. What happens thereafter? Thereafter is 2922(4), Article 2924. It says, after the bill has been read the first time in Parliament, now that's important. So how do bills go through Parliament? They are read 3 times. The first reading is merely an announcement of the bill. The first reading is just an announcement of the bill. The second reading is where the work begins. So the second reading is so the bill is read for the first time in Parliament. So if I take this book here and I'm reading the bill. So, first reading of the bill by Parliament. Mr. Speaker, the bill stands in the name of the Attorney General. A bill seeking to amend Article 66 of the 1992 Constitution to allow a president who are serving a second term, non-consecutive second term, to be able to serve another straight second term and be eligible for the next election. Mr. Speaker, the bill. Put it down. Bill read for the first time in Parliament. Okay, that bill is read. It's an announcement to Parliament. Thereafter, in the second reading, Parliament, the bill will be referred to the committee. So the second reading now comes in. They take it. Mr. Speaker, the bill for the amendment of Article 66 is now in the second reading. And with your permission, I refer it to the Committee of Constitutional and Legal Affairs. The bill is referred to the Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs. That's the second reading. The Constitutional and Legal Affairs will look at it. They will make changes. They will add something. That's what you saw with the LGBT bill when they were fighting. That's the committee. So they look at it. They change it. They do that. It comes back to the House. It's read again. Now, when it's read to the House that time, there may be changes from the first one that was read. And then the third reading is that the House now make the decision. So when it's read a third time, the Speaker will now put the question. So after the third reading is done, after the debates, after the second reading, the third reading is done, and then Mr. Speaker now takes the chair. Now it's not somebody reading it for Speaker. Speaker takes the chair and says, Honorable members, with the discussions after the second reading concluded and the report of the committee so well debated, I now put the question. As many as are in favor of the bill say aye. As many as are against say no. Speaker will decide and say, I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it, the bill goes to the president and is passed. That's first reading, second reading, third reading. That's not what is said here. Not at all. Very different. Let's look at it. After the bill has been read the first time in Parliament, it shall not proceed with further, it shall not be proceeded with further unless it has been submitted to a referendum held throughout Ghana and at least 40% of the persons entitled to vote voted at the referendum and at least 75% of the persons who voted cast their votes in favor of passing the bill. Let's get it again. After it has been read first, nothing else shall be done about the bill unless it has been submitted to a referendum by the people of Ghana. That referendum should be held throughout Ghana, and at least 40% of the 18 million people on the registered voter must vote. And the number of people who vote out of the 40% minimum from the 18 million, 75% of those who vote must vote for the change. Now, when that happens, clause 5 says, where the bill is approved at the referendum, Parliament shall pass it. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, there's no role for a two-thirds majority in Parliament in the amendment of the presidential term limits. That's what we are all learning now. So whether you have two-thirds, or you have 5/3, or you have 1/3, or you don't have a majority, once a bill to amend an entrenched provision has returned positively from the Council of State, it is read in Parliament only once and then it's submitted to the people. So the two-thirds majority of NDC is inconsequential to the NDC's decision to amend Article 66 of the Constitution to allow President Mahama to be able to run for the next election. It's completely inconsequential to it. I'm not sure why all the media have bought into the idea two-thirds majority can amend. It's so false. It's untrue. This is the provision of the law. It is the people of Ghana that can make the determination. Parliament has no role at all. Parliament has actually even no votes. They cannot vote on it. The only votes that an MP can participate in the entrenched provisions being changed in the Constitution is that vote which he carries as an ordinary voter who votes as part of the 40% or as part of the 70%. That's all. No parliamentarian has a vote in this matter inside the Chamber of Parliament. The provision of the law does not allow the Chamber of Parliament, does not give the Chamber of Parliament any role in the decision making. Absolutely no role. That's what we are learning. There's no role for two-thirds majority in amending entrenched clauses of the 1992 Constitution. Zero role. Why have we all sat down and been railroaded into this? Two-thirds are going to change something. Yes, there are things that the non-entrenched provisions that can be changed by Parliament. But I think we've changed all those that need to be changed. All the major ones are now entrenched. So the president's term limit is entrenched. And this is what Article 290 says. When we found out this, when we were looking at it when was it, on Saturday or so, we were all confused that, So Parliament has no role, and we had to convince ourselves that have we read the thing well? And we went back and read it again. And truly, Parliament has no role. I can send you the number of Osubempa or his PA. I have both of them, the numbers. Maybe he can give you some unction and then you can be retained. Because you see, you're a good man. I sincerely hope that they don't let you go. But Valerie Sawyer, too, has done enough. And she wants it, you see. Idrisu Haruna, too, is your son. But he's also come of age. So, Mr. Speaker, whatever happens in January, the Lord be with you. Alban, Sumanu, Kingsford, Bagbin. People are urging me to continue with the appointment and stop this Chief Justice. I will do the Chief Justice. Please, producer, give me tourism. There's a bit of a concern there. I like it. There's just in the tourism. Give me the tourism list. Let me fire that one. Then we get out of the way. Thursday, we continue with the appointment. By Thursday, we'll have more information. Tomorrow morning, there's a meeting that I'll be spying into. I can't attend. You know me. I'm different. I'm right wing. They are left. So I can't attend, but I'll be spying and they will tell you. I'll call them. They'll say, oh, you like filler too much. Then I'll call another person and say, what are you asking me? You have asked this person already. I was there when you were talking to them. Because that's what I'm doing. I'm calling them. Charlie, who is going for finance? Charlie, they are blasting me. No, cut the call. Another person, who is calling you? Paul. Don't mind him. His NPP has lost. Why is he calling you? Anyway, it's all good. Tourism is going to be a crazy fight. It's not just for the Minister of Tourism position. No. There's Minister for Tourism. There's Ghana Tourist Authority. Akwesi Agyeman has done a fantastic job. What they've done at tourism is unmatched anywhere in the Fourth Republic. Anybody can say anything, but if you look at tourism, I don't think Ghana has earned from tourism more than we have earned since 2019 in this dispensation. So tourism has become very juicy. These are the candidates for tourism and they're going to kill each other. Rex Omar wants it. He wants a chip of the tourism. He defended 24-hour economy. He said it's discotheques. And this is true. He said we go to Holland, there are discotheques. People were laughing, but the Ghanaian people were not laughing. They voted massively for it. So Rex Omar wants it. John Dumelo feels entitled to, he has one eye on agric, but that's not his area. Yes, he's a farmer, but what President Mahama is talking about agric now, he's talking agribusiness and something. It looks more like a marketing role for the person who is going to agric. Kwesi Che Dakwa, the finest, KKD, has been very vociferous for the NDC cause, and tourism is his area. So, tourism. Abla Jifa-Gomashi, my favorite candidate, was a minister there before. Now, why is Abla my favorite candidate? Because her late husband was a man I saluted every morning, Brigadier General Ahiaglo is her late husband, and I knew General Ahiaglo from the time I was 6 years old. So, somehow, Abla Jifa-Gomashi, we have a soft spot for her. She's MP for K2 South. And she did excellent at the tourism ministry in the John Mahama administration. She feels she has to be tourism minister. Now, if she becomes tourism minister, which I hope she becomes, now she will make the decision on what is happening. Ghana Tourist Authority, this, that, she has to deal with Rex Omar, has to deal with her colleague MP John Dumelo, he has to deal with Kwesi Che Dakwa. Not just that, look at the list. KOD, Kofi Otchere also joined the NDC campaign, was all over with it. Then Baba Siddiq, who set up 3 music awards, sensational 3 music awards. And he used to work at Metro TV, by the way. Baba Siddiq, he was here. Baba Siddiq is in the race. And then you have my good friend, Kwame A+, who has done to Nane a year what he promised to do. So, John Mahama's tourism is going to look very interesting. Watch this space. This is the last of the appointments I'll do for today. I'm going to move on to the Chief Justice story. And then I will get on to the rest of the appointments on Thursday. This is the Chief Justice story, viewers. The first thing you observe, and when we went to law school, we were taught that when you take a document, the first thing you look at the document is the parties. That is the legal document, those quarreling, the parties. You look at the parties and see which party is legitimate. Kwame Tete taught me that. He taught all of us. Look at the parties and see who is the legitimate party. Then look at the person they are suing. See whether the person should be sued. This is all they taught us in civil procedure. Very, very interesting. And then look at the dates on which the writ was filed. The dates recorded in the lawyer's firm and the dates recorded at the High Court registry. You just might get something there to start the defense or the prosecution of your case as a lawyer. That's what we're taught in law school. Now, using that principle, as soon as I saw this petition, I used that principle to look at it. Now, viewers, see this. This is the petition by Kweku Azar for the removal of the Chief Justice. The petition is written on the 17th date of December 2024. Addressed to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana, Jubilee House, Accra, Jubilee House, Accra, full stop. Dear President, full stop. Dear Mr. President, petition for the removal of the Chief Justice. The person who received the petition appears to have received the petition on the 16th of the same December. Hey, our Sem has come. Our Sem. The petition is written on the 17th of December. The one who receives the petition writes 16th of December. So, when the person was writing this petition, I don't know whether it's received at 4:33 p.m. Receptionist, Joseph Kobna somebody. I can't see the name well. Joseph Kobna something. He received the petition. Now, I just checked with Jubilee House and they said they have not received the petition. That was the check I made. They said they have not received. I don't know whether tomorrow morning that's going to change. But they said they have not received the petition. But this is the petition. Written on the 17th of December, but received on the 16th of December. Play me Ghana Niba for this one. Just 56 seconds. Do one Ghana Niba. Let the thing sink in my viewers' head. Viewers, one more. I'm saying, petition was written on the 17th of December. Signed by Kweku Azar. Received on the 16th of December at 4:33. So it was received at 4:33. 4:33 to midnight is how many hours? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 8, something like that. So the petition was received 8 hours before it was written. God, we are sorry. The petition was received 8 hours before it was written. I'm guessing we might not be able to go into the petition today. We'll go into it on Thursday in some super detail. But just so that I can guide the younger journalists, maybe I just have to talk about the legal nuances about it, what the law says, what it will do, what has to be done, etc., etc. I'll talk about the date on the document itself invalidates the petition. I don't know what's going to happen. The date, does it invalidate the petition? I don't know. Okay. So the petition is the petition for the removal of the Honorable Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, Her Ladyship Gertrude Saki Tokonu, CJ, pursuant to the provisions of Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. Introduction. He says, I, Professor Stephen Kweku Asare, a citizen of the Republic of Ghana, respectfully submits this petition to Your Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana, seeking the removal of Her Ladyship Gertrude Saki Tokonu, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, on grounds of stated misbehavior and incompetence. Okay, now let's deal with the request for the removal of the Chief Justice. The petition filed for the removal of the Chief Justice is on the following grounds. Requesting the President of the Republic to consider the appointment of the 5 justices, allegedly without recourse to the Judicial Council. Now, here in the petition, Professor Kweku Asare talks about Justice Tokonu requested the President to consider the appointment of some judges. Now, the petitioner alleges that is a role for the Judicial Council, not the Chief Justice acting in her individual capacity. The Chief Justice acting in his or her individual capacity cannot, according to the petitioner, write to the President and suggest the appointment of or the elevation of certain Court of Appeal judges to the Supreme Court. That is not part of her role. The way in which judges become Supreme Court judges, whether they are Court of Appeal, whether they are High Court, whether they are called from the bar, or whether they are called from academia, according to the petitioner, that is outlined in the 1992 Constitution. And in that process, there's absolutely no role for the individual Chief Justice. There is a role, however, for the Judicial Council, of which the learned Chief Justice is part. This is the allegation of the petitioner. Allegation number 1. Let's move on. Allegation number 2 is as follows. The petitioner says there's been arbitrary transfers of judges and panels that have been duly constituted. The petitioner alleges that this is a means of influence peddling on the bench and gives the following cases where this was done. He cites the Oponi case, a Blakwa case, Republic versus Elisha Mahama. Now, the Chief Justice has the right and the authority to transfer judges from one case to the other, from one region to the other. Indeed, I have a case before a High Court, and one day I went to the court and the Chief Justice had transferred the judge So my lawyer walked up to me and said, "Oh, Paul, Charlie, you can't. You see me waking up early is a problem because we are always finishing at 3, 4, 5 a.m. So my lawyer came to me and said, Charlie, Paul, I'll make you wake up for nothing." I said, "Why?" So Charlie, I said, "But the judge is here, let's do it." So the judge has been transferred to another region. So we have to wait for the CJ to appoint a new judge. I was naturally disappointed. But that's the CJ's authority. The CJ has the power to do that. So the case was held on. Now the petitioner here says that the CJ's purported transfer of the judge in the Oponi case, the judge in the Ablakwa case, and the judge in the case entitled The Republic vs. Elisha Mahama is also arbitrary. I'm not sure how he comes to that conclusion, but this is the petitioner. Grounds number 3. The petitioner says, making of administrative guidelines without recourse to the Judicial Council and without it being approved by the executive pursuant to Article 157. So, according to Article 157, guidelines for the running of the judicial system, which are usually provided by the Lord Chief Justice, ought to have gone through certain processes. And according to the petitioner, those processes were not obeyed. In the circumstance, he's inviting the president to remove Justice Tokonu. How does the president do that? Let's get to the process. All right. Are they going to put it down? The process of the judicial removal. Article 146 of the Constitution. It says, where a petition is for the removal of the Chief Justice, the president shall, acting in consultation with the Council of State, appoint a committee consisting of 2 justices of the Supreme Court, one of whom shall be appointed chairman by the president, and 3 other persons who are not members of the Council of State, nor members of Parliament, nor lawyers. So this is the first level of the petition. The president must first receive the petition that was written on the 17th of December, but received on the 16th of December, the day before the petition was written. The president must receive that petition, and then in the petition, the president must make a prima facie case. Now, this prima facie case was read into Article 146 by a distinguished Supreme Court panel led, I believe, by Justice Dateba, who made a ruling, and I'll go to that in a minute, who made a ruling that in the Article 146 processes, where the matter is about another person, say electoral commissioner, a Supreme Court judge, the president is supposed to be a conveyor belt to send the petition to the Lord Chief Justice. The Chief Justice is expected under the Constitution to make a prima facie determination, including the office of the special prosecutor. They are all part of that group of people. The Chief Justice makes that determination whether there's a prima facie case. If she makes the determination that there is, she proceeds to set up a committee, okay? Now, when the petition is about the Chief Justice, the president says that the petition go to the Constitution says the petition goes to the president. But the Constitution here does not say that the president ought to make a prima facie case. So in Ejechum versus the Republic, the distinguished Supreme Court judges led by Datebam made the importation into Article 146 that where it says that the petition shall go to the president should make a determination of prima facie. This is not the first time a petition has gone out against the Chief Justice. In fact, Justice Eniyeboah had one such petition against him, and the President, Akufo-Addo, made a determination that the prima facie case has not been made. So there's clear precedent for this one. The President, if he receives the petition, must make a prima facie case. Now, once he's done that, he would have to appoint, as the law says, 2 Supreme Court justices, one of whom shall be appointed chairman of the committee, 3 other persons, so 5 of them. Those 3 persons, they shouldn't be members of Council of State, they shouldn't be members of Parliament, and they should not be lawyers. So 2 justices, one of them will chair, one will join the panel, 5 of them will look at it. They will sit in camera. They are going to sit in camera. It continues. The committee appointed, if the committee gets appointed, under clause 6 of this article, shall inquire into the petition and recommend to the president whether the Chief Justice ought to be removed from office. All the proceedings under this article shall be held in camera, that means in secret, and the justice or chairman against whom the petition is made is entitled to be heard in the defense by himself or by a lawyer or other experts of his choice. The president shall, in each case, act in accordance with the recommendations of the committee. Where a petition has been referred to a committee under this article, the president may, in the case of the Chief Justice, acting with the advice of the Council of State, by warrant signed by him, suspend the Chief Justice. It says, where a petition referred to the committee under this article, the President may. So the President, when he has received the petition, he has made a prima facie case that the case ought to be heard. He may proceed to suspend the Chief Justice. We are going to see how the life of this petition travels, given the interesting circumstances that it finds itself. It's a petition that is widely supported by the NDC juggernaut, if you like, the NDC brain, intellectual brain. If you look on social media, there's a lot of celebration. Kwaku Azar himself has been thought to be very left-wing in his orientation, and therefore this looks like a petition that is formulated on the altar of political partisanship. And so it's very interesting that this petition is going to the opposite President Akufo-Addo, but perhaps it is intended to go there, and then President Mahama will inherit the petition. So it's not as if President Mahama became president and then they brought a petition. They brought a petition, President Mahama inherits it. We don't know what he's going to do about it. We don't even know the merits of what Kwaku Azar is alleging. But this is the way it is. On Thursday, I would like to do a deeper analysis of the provisions of Article 146. And I'll be suggesting that some of the provisions are anti-democracy. Clearly, they are very, very anti-democracy. But I don't have time tonight to do that. We'll explore more of that. I think there's a part of that in this book, the part of analysis of the constitutional provisions and what ought to be amended in this book. But on Thursday, if I have the opportunity, and it can be boring because this academic analysis can be boring. So I'll try as much as possible to do it in a very short time so it's not so boring to viewers. But it's a point I want to make for posterity about some of the provisions of Article 146. They are anti-democratic. So that's the Chief Justice petition. Is there anything else? Let's do the text messages. I have one young guy wrote something about me that excites me very much. When the young people write about me, I usually get very thrilled. We're having quarrels, you know. Where's Paul Adom Otchere? Run away. All of those things. Then people started sending me this article. I don't know the young man. Great young man. He wrote something about me. So I'm just taking the last bit of this program to share with you viewers. He says, why Paul Adom Otchere is my favorite journalist in Ghana. Now he lives abroad. And he says, in writing this piece, I'm fully aware that a section of the viewing populace holds strong reservations about the man I've elected as my favorite journalist in Ghana. Such individuals do not dispute his death, witnessing and resounding intellectual gravitas. Their only concern is that occasionally the award-winning journalist churns biased political output, hence their misgivings about him. But that does not matter to me. I think not. Many of those who allege that Paul is biased frequently do so when his comments hurt their immediate sensitivities. However, in instances where his work and editorials favor their interest, they call him the Theseus of Athens and a hero. Okay. It goes on to say, in effect, the reservations about Paul are largely based on swinging dynamics of political issues. And that is why I don't often like paying attention to the alleged excesses he brings on board. As a budding journalist, I like to focus on his sterling abilities and strength and not the drummed lapses. After all, who in Jerusalem is a saint? And so in this piece, I shall concern myself with 3 reasons why Uncle Paul, he makes me feel too old. I'm uncle already. Is my favorite on the screens. For starters, Paul is a fellow who has shown great consistency in the coverage of politics and current affairs with Good Evening Ghana. The first time I watched the show way back in 2003, 2004, I was only in class 3. Hey, I'm sorry. Am I getting to... I'll retire. You know, when I visited President Kufuor, he shared a story with me. And 2-3 days later, I heard him share it in public on the radio. He said that these days, when they retire you and they don't want you to talk some, as he puts it, then they call you elder statesman. So when they say an elder statesman, it means it's not a dream. We're elder statesman. And we had that conversation, we laughed it off. And then I heard him say it publicly. So I don't know whether this guy is retiring me by indicating that he was in class 3 or something in 2004. Let's move on. He says, but I really thank him very much. My dad, a retired examiner and educationist, always said that Paul's program was a fine learning opportunity. Oh, thank you to your dad. Really thank you. And hence, he insisted that we watch portions of the show before going to bed. Thank you, Daddy. I have to admit that this directive was not an exciting one back in the day. If I had my own way, I would have tuned out all the time. But years on, I'm very glad we sat by our old Sanyo TV to watch Good Evening Ghana, back at Agege in Dansoman. Even though I couldn't fully grasp the import and thrust of the discussions then, there were a few words and expressions that found their way into my vocabulary. Political dispensation, he says, is one of such. Until now, I learn elitist expressions from him. Okay, thank you. More to write. Please, look for this guy. I'll have to give him a copy of the book for free. Producer, find him. And then, again, I said I'll talk about the book after 7 January, so we'll do that. But those of you who have been writing, say Obama, Pokwa, say, Fatih will give me the list. Those of you contribute to the program. And those of you who are followers of the show, if you can show that you're a follower, you buy the book at a reduced price. And for the big ones that will read their message, PK Sapon, Obama, Pokwa, say, Master Planner Junior on Kintampo. On election day, I was trying to reach him in Kumasi to give him a book. Master Planner, I couldn't do it. I can see that you are devastated, but you still have a book with me, Master Planner Junior from Kintampo. He's in Accra. Oh, he's here. Let him come to the studio on Thursday, and I'll present him with a copy of the book. And all our followers, the book is yours. Let's share it, and let's have one evening where I'll invite those of you to come. Here at Metro TV, we have a rooftop that we can sit and have some chat. So I'll just get there's a band here. There are boys here who play band. We'll get a band, and then all our good evening Ghana. We'll protect ourselves with large security. Those who can show that you are followers of the show. We'll sit down, ask me questions about the book. It's not for camera. It's just me telling you what I think. And then I'll be doing questions for the book on camera at the University of Ghana, KNUST, Cape Coast University. Quite a lot to do from end of January to February if God gives us life. Okay. He continues to say, many people begin initiatives and abandon it along the way. And so for a man to be consistent in producing educative and insightful content for nearly 20 years, shouldn't such great consistency be admired? Now, if you are a conserved individual, my second reason may not appeal to you. However, in my opinion, optics are very important, and that's why Paul's obvious desire for fashion, branding, blissful outlooks form part of my reason for liking the stanch Kotoko fan. Hey, this man. Till date, there has been a long-standing perception that holds journalists as some tattered and hungry men and women hunting for collapsed buildings and market fires to report on. It is often assumed journalists are poor folks who rely on Kanta shirts and trousers to, Kantamanto is what he means. You see, when I was growing up, we didn't call it Kantamanto. We didn't call it Kanta. We just call it TS. Please, those of my generation, let's correct ourselves. So the thing is not TS anymore. They call it Kanta. I beg you, Pan. So if we go and say TS, they will laugh at us that we are old and debe. But are we old? But we are not old. So they say Kanta. So please, when the young men are talking, please listen. And those who are my age, just listen quietly and then just change the words. We used to call it TS. They call it Kanta. So that's the force, bend down boutique. Yeah, that's what he's referring to. He says, journalists are poor folks who rely on Kanta shirts and trousers to look good. These assumptions form part of the growing contempt many people have for journalists in Ghana. I think that he has said something that really touches the core of my media existence. I've never liked that, where people think that, and that is why I fight journalists who think of themselves as below. And I always said that. A lawyer practices law for 20 years, he buys an expensive car, it's okay. A journalist practices journalism for 20 years, he buys a car, he's a corrupt person. I don't even, and it is journalists who are saying it. Is it because they do not apply themselves to the work? And so they don't see how the work can produce that result? And I've said it before, in my media career, I've never been underpaid. Every salary I've been given, I've been excited about it. And I don't understand why they say journalists should be poor. And that's a journalist, a common journalist. It's really annoying. And I have really strove hard to be able to change that perspective. And I'm happy that a very young man has observed that we need to change that perspective. What a lawyer can do for a client, a journalist can do for a community, a journalist can do for a business. Media houses do that for businesses. Businesses come to media houses and pay money. The media houses must learn to drive that money down to the individual journalist who is making the brand famous, for which reason the advertiser is coming. It is about the person producing the show, and it's about the shows that come out on the radio and come out on the television. Those are the reasons why the advertiser is coming. So when the money comes, that individual, whether it's a marketing manager, is a news reporter, is a news editor, the money must drill down to them to make them look good for the brand and for the image. But I think that is changing. With the arrival of the Zoom Lions in media and all of that, that is changing. Let's try for quality. Let the journalists show quality, and I believe that if you're a journalist and you show quality, before long, you'll be able to live a good life. Okay, let's move on. But that's where Uncle Paul flips the coin. Elegantly and stylishly dressed on air, Paul erases the perception that journalists are a bunch of broke gossips. Oh, is that what they are? They think broke gossips. His shoes, colored socks, suits, and sparkling spectacle frames are always enough to shatter the narrative of poverty surrounding journalists, and for adding a touch of class to the inky fraternity. Shouldn't we love him? Oh, he has more. I don't know whether I can go on. I'm blushing now. In closing my thesis on why Paul Adom Otchere is my favorite journalist, let me briefly discuss his inclination to spirituality and his openness to young people. For the avoidance of doubt, journalism is a learned profession that thrives principally on logic, intellectualism, and empirical data. As a result, anybody who roams in the profession for a long time is more likely to be apathetic to religion and faith, which are not always factual. But the same cannot be said of Paul. His years of staunch journalistic endeavor has not in any way diluted his belief and faith persuasions. On many occasions, I have seen him moderate edifying conversations about his faith and spiritual subjects. The acknowledgement of God and faithfulness to logic is an admirable balance I'd like to keep as I progress in this arena. In wrapping up, the current Good Evening Ghana official program has created a healthy avenue where young people contribute to some of the discussions. I've also learned that a good number of Paul's production crew is constituted by enterprising young scholars whom he engages during the production. Undoubtedly, there's a fine mentorship for the next generation, and for a producer to create such an avenue means he has a good heart and is not animated by competition. Isn't this impactful enough? And so until the rapture is Paul for me. Wow, the guy can write. This is completely amazing. I have to find him. So I sent this to producer. Producer, please look for him on social media. We owe him a book. I think he's abroad. So whenever he comes, we owe him a book. We also has just come in. News has just come in. News has come in. Justice Tokonu has today seen a petition in the public. The understanding is that His Excellency the President says that the petition has not yet arrived at Jubilee House, but there is petition in the public on social media all over by one Kweku Azar, who is petitioning the President for the removal of the Lord Chief Justice. Where is it coming from? That's the question everybody's asking. Tonight, we will be showing you where it's coming from. We'll be showing you the petition, what it says, what are the issues, what are the pros and cons. Our lawyers are working on it right now. They said I should give them 10 minutes. They'll give me the pros and cons. There's an important Supreme Court case, Frank Ejechum, in which the Supreme Court, which was led by Dateba in those circumstances, discussed a petition to remove the Chief Justice. We'll be relying on that as well to show our viewers everything else. Later tonight also, we'll be showing you what a 2/3 majority in Parliament can do and what they cannot do. But before we do that, as a new season, please let's undo the flags of the political parties and let's get back. Tornado, join me here. Let's get back to working as a people. So the flags of the new patriotic party that lost the election so badly is nicely folded here, and that of the National Democratic Congress that was victorious in the election, that also has to go in the circumstances. And we will have the Ghana flag replacing those flags. The University of Ghana platforms are having conversations about which hall has more presidents and which hall doesn't have more presidents. So please put the presidents from the halls, the photographs then, and I'll take the video of the University of Ghana a bit later. So, oh, it's not ready. Okay. All right. Oh, so they're going to give me pictures of Professor Mills, Nana Akufo-Addo, and then President Mahama, photographs of them. I just need the photographs, and then I'll put the song in. Professor Mills, Legon Hall, Nana Akufo-Addo, Legon Hall, and John Dramani Mahama, Commonwealth Hall. Those are the people who have been, who studied at the University of Ghana, who have mounted the presidency of this republic. So we're going to share that in a minute. I don't think they have it, do they? Oh, they don't have, they're putting stuff. Okay, they'll get it from me. So let me take the text messages. Then I'll come to show you Finance Minister, Foreign Affairs, Chief Justice petition, Article 290. How does the 2/3 majority, what can it do, what can it not do? So let's do the text messages first. We have two of our ladies in the studio, Fatih and Anziba, and they'll be reading the messages for us. Who should I start with? Fatih, what are people saying?
We're from Aaron Babako, and he says, in considering whether to retain Alban Baben as Speaker or to choose a new candidate, members of Parliament should prioritize qualities such as integrity, impartiality, and a strong commitment to serving the public interest. The next Speaker of Parliament should be someone who can unite the diverse interests within the Parliament, facilitate constructive debate on important issues, and uphold the principles of democracy and good governance. Now, Aaron Babaku says, however, some critics argued that it may be time for a change in leadership in the Speaker of Parliament's position. They point to the need for fresh perspectives and ideas to address the challenges facing the Parliament, such as improving parliamentary efficiency, improving accountability, and enhancing public trust in the institution. Now, Master Planner Jr. says Musa Dankwa did well in his predictions. He also predicted that the NDC will lead in the parliamentary elections with an estimated 150 seats, and the NPP is expected to win 99 seats. While one seat is likely to go to an independent candidate and 29 constituencies remain too close to call. So the 29 seats added to the 150 makes a lot of sense. On the other hand, he failed for predicting a 2.5% of votes for Alan Kojo Tremantin, 3.0% for Nana Kwame Bediako, and 0.9% for other candidates with voter turnouts projected at 77.6%. So congratulations to the President-elect John Dramani Mahama. Now, Alhaji Bob Sidi says, Paul, the naysayers said you've run away from the country. Meanwhile, the same people said they have their men at the airport and no supporter of the NPP will leave the country. Paul, you survived many regimes and will continue to survive, inshallah. They hail their journalists and presenters, but they hate their opponent journalists. We love you, Paul. Silas says it cannot be Haruna Idrisi. He's an elected member, and I doubt they would want to go for by-election. Oheneba says, you've earned my respect for apologizing to Musa Dankwa. That's called maturity. And lastly, coming from Yasir North Gonja, says Musa Dankwa is being praised today because of the NPP members who chose not to cast their votes. So we should just give him the credits for that. Honorable Speaker Babin will not preside over the 9th Parliament as his unjust actions need to end with this unfortunate 8th Parliament. As for JM, it's best not to say much about him, but congratulations to the President-elect. What do you have for us, Ansaba?
All right, from this way, he says, by far, this is the best program. From Ayaba, he says, Paul, kindly play Baomia's video where the only issue he had was the gap. Abdul says, it's good to be back, Paul. And now Kwame Coleman says, Paul has been doing this show for more than 20 years under different regimes, and we should not forget that. Mohammed Sheku Toure is saying, Mr. Paul, this is Mohammed Sheku Toure from Sierra Leone. I truly admire your courage, and this stands for democracy. I also admire your standout job in Africa as one of the best journalists. I humbly plead with you, sir, be a man of the people and the nation of Ghana. Do not allow any individuals or parts to dent your image and reputation. Keep the brand, Paul Adom Otchere of Good Evening Ghana. From Abdul, he says, good evening, Apostle Paul, and your entire production team of Good Evening Ghana official. My regards to the NPP members across the world will bounce back strongly in 2028, inshallah. Lastly, from Honorable Confidence, he says, the whole of Ghana is green. Over to you, Paul.
We're ready? Okay. Let's get on with it. Let me just finish. The text messages are too many. So this is from some big man. So let me look at it. Okay, all right. Kojo Chumbuafu, good evening to you. I see that you're enjoying the program, Pam. So let's just do a small, what's the time? It's 10. Hey, let's hurry up. We have so much to do. Chief Justice Petition, Article 290. It was all coming up. Professor J.A. Mills is... do you have only Mills? I need Mills Akufo-Addo. Do they have it? Oh, I should wait a little bit. Okay, all right. Then let me go and take the song whilst they do that. So, Professor Mills was in Legon Hall in the University of Ghana, and there's a University of Ghana platforms, a lot going on the WhatsApp platform. Professor Mills was in Legon Hall. Nana Akufo-Addo was in Legon Hall. So Legon Hall have two presidents in the history of Ghana. We sort of had Kwame Nkrumah because he went to Achimota College, and that was the University of Ghana at the time. But in terms of the University of Ghana since 1948, Professor J.A. Mills was a Legon Hall young student, and he became president. And now Danko Akufo-Addo, also Legon Hall, became president. So Legon Hall was leading. This is the case that Commonwealth Hall are making. Commonwealth Hall are saying that they only have President John Dramani Mahama. He's the only one who was in Commonwealth Hall who became president. But President John Dramani Mahama has become president twice. So Commonwealth Hall are alleging that they lead Legon Hall in the number of presidents from the university because they have President Mahama twice. Legon Hall has 1 Mills, 1 Akufo-Addo. Commonwealth has 2. It just shows that the University of Ghana has lived up to its billing. The University of Ghana has lived up to its expectation. The University of Ghana has lived up to the billing of raising leaders for the future.